What is up, my friend? Welcome to episode number 42 of the Anthony Dynamics podcast. And today's episode is all about how to build a brand. I'm bringing on my homie, Paul J. Daly, who's the founder, CEO, and creative director of Congruent, which is a brand-first integrated marketing agency. And I've asked him to come onto the podcast to share his time-proven branding strategy process. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Welcome to the Anthony Dynamics podcast, the one and only podcast designed to help you become unstoppable in life and business. My name is Anthony Dynamics. My friends call me AJ, and my goal with this podcast is to help you remember who you truly are so you can maintain your center in the chaos, embody your potential, and unlock freedom in your life and business. That being said, let's get into today's show.
All right, welcome back. I'm super excited about today's guest. I first met Paul when I was speaking at Jody Holland's GrowthCon event back in 2019. I drove into Amarillo, Texas to speak at that event, and Paul actually flew in from New York to speak at that event. And when we met, man, we just clicked. It was like we had known each other for our entire lives. And the next day after the event, I offered him and his son and some of our friends and my friends, and we all went out and hiked down to the Palo Duro Canyon out around Amarillo. Now, thankfully, he accepted the invitation and he joined us, and that has kind of further solidified our relationship on that hike. And if you've never heard of Paul, let me give you just a little background on the guy. He started a company back in 2003 with a few $1,000s in a rusty 1984 Chevy Astro. He dove headfirst into the game of entrepreneurship and grew a one-man wheel repair service for auto dealers into a multi-million-dollar reconditioning organization called Image Auto and Rim Doctor that served over 150 dealers and dealer groups. And since he was like this culture first, brand first type of guy, he started building a creative agency called Congruent within the auto recon company. Now, long story short, the agency started working with bigger brands. They started a content series for dealers, and Image Auto and Rim Doctor, those companies were acquired by a large national player, and now Congruent is his primary focus. Now, before I bring Paul onto the podcast, I want to let you know about Mindset is Not Enough. This is my latest book all about helping entrepreneurs breaking through to the next level of success. And for many years, I had implemented the tactics, I had used the tools, and it seemed like no matter how hard I worked, my income just kind of plateaued or it stalled out, and I couldn't figure out why this was happening. I tried the affirmations, I tried the meditations, I tried everything I could, yet I didn't know what I didn't know. And I've come to find that that is the place where the biggest breakthroughs happen for any human being on the planet. Your biggest breakthroughs are found in the areas of your life that you don't know that you don't know. Now, I dive deep on this concept and give you some practical advice on the ancient secrets to unlocking the next level of freedom, purpose, and success in my book. And you can go get the entire book for free by going to ajamex.com/book. Again, just go to ajamex.com/book to get Mindset is Not Enough. Now, let's bring on today's guest onto the show.
Paul J. Daly, welcome to the podcast, dude.
It is an honor to be here with you.
Thanks, man. I'm excited to have you on today. I've actually had a lot of fun on your podcast. I feel like when we met a little over a year ago at GrowthCon, we just met, I felt like I'd known you my entire life. Even to this day, I still feel like you're legitimately like a brother, like in a family, even though we haven't really had dinner together or anything like that. But it definitely, in my heart, it kind of feels that way to me. Yeah, and so I'm excited to have this conversation with you. Do you remember how cold it was when we hiked down to the Palo Duro Canyon after GrowthCon?
Exactly. I'm gonna say it was probably in the low 20s.
It was so cold. It was so cold and so worth it, though.
It was totally worth it.
That was a fun trip.
Totally worth it. It was an amazing trip. And being from upstate New York, it was cold. I actually felt colder in the hotel because I felt like a massive bait and switch. I went to Amarillo, Texas, my first time to Texas, and I was like, no one knew how to properly heat a building. I was inside the building. I was like, why is it 60 degrees in this building? It's supposed to be 72. So I was colder in the building. Once we knew we were going outside, I was prepared for that.
So funny. Yeah. Welcome to Texas, man. Welcome to Texas. Today, dude, I want to talk about how to build a brand. I see your content on Instagram. To me, dude, it's super inspiring to see the quality that you put out, the consistency that you put out. You're always just a machine putting out really, really good content. And today we're going to talk about how you see what that time-proven way to build a brand is. But first, I would just want to understand how you even got into building brands in the first place. I mean, you're just a dude who grew up in Philly. You started this one-man wheel repair service business So how did you transition out of the mindset, the skill sets of like a one-man show to like a full-on brand, selling the business, and now like doing what you're doing?
Yeah. Like a lot of good entrepreneurs, like by accident, in a sense, building a brand, like you substitute the word brand for reputation, and brand is all about connecting with other people. So that's just something that was kind of in my DNA from the beginning. I love being around other people. I love listening to what's important to them and like trying to find a meaningful place to fit in their life. So as I started, like, through high school and college, like I always had bands and I was doing music. And so there's a level of just connection with other people that inherently comes with having a band and being about something and believing in something and having people have a certain expectation when they come and they buy your music or they come to one of your shows. So as that kind of, you know what I'm saying, yeah, because
Totally,
this
100%.
is your pedigree, right? So that's, I think, like brand in a really intimate way, around a certain belief system or music genre. And so I started my first business, just with a lot of enthusiasm. As I came through that, just approaching that in the same way, like, hey, there are people that need something and I want to be the one that delivers what they need. And I'm going to do that by them liking me, feeling comfortable around me at the very like base level. So I built that company on basically company culture because it was a hard job. And I knew that if you want people to do a hard job, they have to believe in more than just the work that they're doing. And so it was like, we reconditioned cars, so dyed carpets and things like that. And I said, if anyone tells you they're passionate about dyeing a carpet from gray to darker gray in the middle of a Buffalo, New York winter, they're just lying to you because nobody is. And so like I started just creating content around what our company culture was and how we believed in one another and how we supported one another. And that was really my first dip into like creating content. So we were doing it for ourselves. And then little by little, we started to do it for other people. And it just becomes, again, part of my DNA. So I just became a student of marketing and brand. And,
Nice.
that
What year was that?
That was, company started in 2003. So built it from 2003 all the way through 2018. 2018, that business was acquired, mid 2018. So, and now obviously I have a brand agency. So now I get to do that all the time.
So were you creating content like 2009, 2011? I'm curious, like when you hopped into the content marketing world.
Yeah. So probably, that's a good, probably between 2009, 2010 is when first started like seriously saying like, we're going to intentionally make things.
You're early adopter, bro. I mean, 2009, that was like early days of content marketing, man.
It's really funny. Well, fortunately it was all internal, but like you couldn't stream video on YouTube. Like you couldn't do it. So like the only place that we actually had to show videos or distribute content were like at company parties and at, like where everybody comes together and then we would show the video. It was very difficult to share video content at least around.
Sure. I think like we're probably in one of the most, I don't know, like it has to be easy. It has to be the easiest time to like create a message, to get it out. Like it's so easy. And I think it's so easy that people take it for granted because they can pick up their phone and they can build a brand from their palm of their hand. And I think it's kind of crazy because it is so easy. And so it's like those like yourself who are just doing it consistently that kind of tend to win the game. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. There's like the barrier to entry has been completely eliminated. I just had a guest on my podcast 2 weeks ago who has directed major music videos like over the course of the last 20 years. His videos have billions of views. And the most recent video he just directed, he did it with an iPhone. And he shot it on an iPhone just to show people that you can do it. So like the fact that I have this and you have that, and you used to need, $100,000 worth of equipment to get the same result, truly does eliminate any barriers that or excuses that people would have to not do it.
Why do you think building a brand is important?
Building a brand is important because like it's easy to get caught up on the word brand. And it's like a lot of kind of education starts with like defining that word clearly. But I think the clearest definition is just the same way you would interchangeably use the word reputation. It's important to build a reputation because until you have one, no one knows that they should pay attention to you. Right. And that's how, if you don't do that, then who would pay attention to you and why, especially in a world where a lot of people are vying for our attention more than ever. If you don't put your time and energy into establishing what it is that you're about and why anybody should care, then nobody will care.
Makes sense, man. So with your idea being brand reputation, So do you feel like people should control the narrative of the reputation, or like a legitimate good brand is just like an overflow of their beingness kind of is that reputation, is that brand? Because I see so many people, I think they have in their mind that they have to uphold a certain look, a certain thing that they're creating in a brand rather than letting, the brand come through the totality of who they are. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think that if you personally are building a brand or building a brand for an organization, I think it's important that you're very clear about what you believe the brand is about. And I say what you believe it's about because, just like you alluded to, it doesn't matter what you think in the end. It only matters what other people think when they
Right.
interact with you in some way. So I still believe that you must start with a very clear definition of why you're doing what you're doing, what your beliefs are in doing it. And at that point, you hand it over. It's just like a good songwriter or a good song. It's like, I don't know what it's going to mean to you. I just know what it means to me. Right. And when enough people rally around a song for a certain reason, like Phil Collins, I Can Feel It, right? He didn't think and he didn't write that song to be like a pregame NFL warm-up song, right? Where like you have these highly tuned athletes with headphones just like waiting for that goo 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 goo, right? Waiting for that moment to be like, oh yeah, let's go tackle somebody. That is not why he wrote that song. But that is definitely what that song has become in this modern day and age. So you have to write it for an authentic reason, put that out into the world. But once you do, just like a good song, it's going to mean something else to everyone else.
I'm amazed by how many musicians I know that are in the online brand building, content creation space. Like the really
Yep.
good people that I know in the space,
Yep.
for whatever reason, they were like legit musicians back in the day. It's just an interesting side note.
I think I think, I've never thought about that, but like, you're right. And I have the same experience and people I know, I think it's the artistry side of it.
Totally,
So,
100%.
marketing has these two sides of it. One is the art side and one is the math side, right? So you can market effectively just by knowing your algorithms, right? Being astute to the details and the data. But it's the creative side that actually gets people's attention. It's the creative side that makes people lean in and go, wow, I really like that. So I think it's the artist side. Probably the people that you see as being successful in this world, you being one of them, are the people that also understand the math side, at least enough. So that's a really interesting, but it is the artistry. It's the
Well,
artistry.
I want to stay on this for a second because as we're talking, there's things coming to me. So
Yeah.
even in the game of like musicianship, you have the artist people like me. I don't know keys. I don't know music theory. I'm just like, I pick up an instrument and I just play what feels good to me.
And it makes sense, right?
Yeah. But now I have other people who like they're mathematic about writing music. You know what I mean? And
I
so
do.
like it's coming through them in a very different mathematical lens. And so it's almost like even in the game of branding, and I think this is a very important distinction because sometimes I find myself, because I'm more on the artist side rather than the math side,
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I will study some of the people who teach the branding and the marketing from the math side. And then I compare myself and I'm like, fuck, why am I not doing it the way that they're doing it? Why am I not doing it so fucking logical and calculated?
Yeah.
And I'm totally staying out of tune with the way that I'm kind of designed to create and allow that authentic expression. I would say source coming through me. I'm limiting it because I'm trying to create from something that I'm just not, it's just not the way I'm wired, right? So I guess what I'm saying is for those listening, when you're coming into creating a brand, there's a really simple distinction here to understand is pay attention to the way you like to create. If it's very artistic, then be artistic and let the Phil Collins read us, let the song come and it has its own life and you just got to write song after song. I was listening to Pink Floyd the other day. I've really gotten into Pink Floyd lately.
Yeah.
And I was realizing how much terrible music they created. but listen to this. The ones that were good, it's like an experience of God.
Right.
I don't know how to say it in any other way. It just like puts you into that pocket and you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like when you are in that artistry space, and I think I don't know them, I would assume they create in that artistry space. Some of that content is going to just be terrible. But when you do find that little moment of that little pocket of like godlike connection, man, it's a home run and it's so good. And
Well,
so,
I think that's what you just said is like an easy translation into content creation, like for a modern day brand.
yeah.
The reason I create so much content is because like I know that it's not all going to connect, right? And so you can like self-curate, like, I only want to release the good songs,
Sure.
right? But at some point you thought that song was good, so you released it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
But it's like nobody is that like on point, because humans are always in a different position. I could connect with you with a piece of content today that the same piece of content wouldn't have connected you had you seen it last week.
Totally. 100%. It's almost like reading
And
the
so,
Bible, right? Like
yes,
you read it over and over again, at least I do, and
yeah,
other spiritual scripts, because certain little texts hit me just based upon the way my lens of life has evolved, the way my soul has
context,
evolved. Exactly. 100%. Dude.
context.
100%.
Yeah, so I totally get that, and totally I love the musician the parallel. It
Yeah,
feels
dude.
right.
It does, doesn't
I
it?
probably never realized that about myself until this moment, which is kind of the thing you do, right? Like, if for some reason, like, I'm talking about musicianship and how in some way like that got me here, right? That's kind of like your magic trick.
Oh man, being in the moment, responding things, how I'm built to thrive, bro. So let me ask you a question. So we have this whole virus thing. Who knows how long it's going to last?
Yep.
Here in Dallas, we're getting to open back up, I think, and through different phases. And then who knows, it may be a terrible mistake, and then we're back into the situation that we're in. Who knows? But
Yep.
how do you feel this whole thing is going to impact building or maintaining a brand?
So big conversation right now. So I do a lot of work in the automotive industry. So I work with auto dealers as a primary vertical, or at least a significant vertical within my agency. And I know how dealers think. What interesting thing has happened through this whole scenario is that all of a sudden, when you can't make content and try to sell or grow your company by giving price and payment advertising, or like really cheap advertising that's easily replicable, has nothing to do with who you are. It's just what you have and the piece of inventory you have at the moment. The second that chopped off, I heard people coming out of the woodwork, like, you have to build your brand, right? And marketing advice is coming out from every angle, people
Totally.
that have tech companies, and right, because it's an easy thing to say. And I'm starting to develop my thinking on this, obviously, because it's a common thing. And the truth is, you can fake that you're building your brand right now and start to talk about, oh, well, we're here for you, right? Like the first "we're here, we're in this together" videos that came out were really good. We watched them, we felt good about it. The next week, we're like, oh, yeah, we're still in this together, right? And by week 3, it was total white noise. And anyone that made one from week 3 on is like just a copycat. And like, now you're just saying that because you're supposed to say that. So it'll be really easy in this scenario to think that building your brand is talking about your consumer or talking about things that are other than the product you sell. And what's going to happen is, the second the ability to go price payment ads and buy, the second that becomes like socially acceptable again, everyone's going to turn that switch back on because it's easy. And building your brand through this is an unprecedented opportunity to reboot your business. And reboot, if it's just you and you're building a personal brand and you're trying to do something, there's never been a better time than right now than start with just talking about what you believe and why. Put it in context, right? But you have to make the promise to not go back to the easy stuff the second you can. And I think that the companies that can do that in this season are like 6 months from now, 12 months from now, going to be vastly ahead, because people are very receptive in this time to authenticity.
I think authenticity is always like the key. So
Yeah.
I learned a concept from Jeremy Gene Wilson. He was on episode number 2, and I think he came back a couple episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught me this one single line, and it really transformed the way I see life, which was, the frequency of the messenger is always greater than the message. So this is what I mean by that, coming into the game of brand. 2 brands can put out the same message. If one is fabricated because it's like, oh, that's the trend, that is what must, happen, it's not going to land, because we live in a day where we're in the age of intuition. So beyond the words that we say, beyond the brand that we create, people can legitimately feel like the tone, the personality. They can feel the brand, if it's authentic, if it's real, if they really care. And so for those who don't, like, it's still going to come through like the totality of them, their personality, their energy, their frequency, their vibe. I know I'm getting way new agey. It comes through them into the brand. So I think for those, like you said, who are here to truly care and solve real problems for real people, and they're using, like you said, the no barrier of entry to create content, they'll win no matter what, if they'll just stay consistent. And that's the biggest problem that I see for people in the space, is they get excited for 2 weeks and then they're like, no, I'm not doing it. Like, even for me, this podcast, I'm close to 50 episodes in, which is a huge win for me, just because I'm doing the work. And
Yeah.
there's weeks where I do not want to do this show.
Oh,
There's a
so
week,
much, man.
exactly, man.
I get it. So like one of the things for me, like same thing. Like I'm walking that road and I can't believe that I've done as many episodes as I have, and I've released one. Have I really released one every week?
Yeah.
And then like as we've gone on, right, I have to put in like systems and accountabilities to make sure I get that. Like for me, it's like by Thursday, by the time I close my eyes, I have to have a recorded episode if I want it to be ready to launch on Tuesday morning. And like that discipline is really, I can say like that single discipline, like have a podcast recorded, release one once a week. That has been a complete linchpin for anything I've been able to do, like building a personal brand, but or even like generating a business. Because when you have a team, right, what you say helps you develop your thinking and allows you to have a consistent message to everyone else. Honestly, it holds me accountable. Like I have to eat my own cooking, or else I'm just like, why would you listen to me if I don't live what I say?
Totally.
Right. And my wife, right, who's right upstairs right now, our wives, our significant others are the very first ones. Like there's a part of me that's like, man, if I say this, I know I'm accountable to it. Right. So I better be speaking the truth. And like, that's a good thing. But saying it every week and being consistent about the same thing is, brand would be nothing without that. It's just another person making noise.
Yeah, it's for me, it's been like a whole new level of like internal self-leadership, because I do 2 episodes. I do a Sunday sermon and then I do the interview show on Wednesday.
Oh, man.
So the Sunday sermon is a solo show, and that's the one that takes up the most time. Like it takes up so much time to do so much research with like holy scriptures across any topic, and then weave it into a personal development message that's relevant.
That one takes real work right there.
So much time, dude.
Right.
And there's times when like there's no date night on a Friday because I'm like, babe, I have to get this fucking podcast done. I'm sorry.
She's like, you get to choose whether. Yeah, but trust me, it's important.
Exactly. So, dude, what have you found are the time-proven steps to build a brand?
Okay, so number one being deathly honest with yourself. What do you actually believe? Not what do you think someone thinks you should believe, but what do you actually believe, and how can you define that belief and etch it in stone and making that your center point? If you can't do that, you're going to have a really hard time building anything on top of it. So like my personal one is pursuing clarity. And I define that further as saying like clarity is perspective. It's knowing where you are on the map, right? You're going from one place, you have to get to the other place. And if you don't know where you are on that journey, you're totally lost. So having perspective. So basically my whole effort as a personal brand, or like my contribution to this world, is that I want to help people have perspective on where they are on the map. With my business, it's summed up in one statement. It's that business is more meaningful when people connect on a human level. That drives my marketing agency. So first step, building a brand, have to get really, really honest about who you are and what it is that you're actually delivering. It's easy to get caught up because you have a lot of other interests and you have but you have to make it linear or no one will know why they should pay attention. The second step is that you have to understand who you're talking to. I'm going to pick an audience, and it can't be everyone. That's not an audience. So you have to understand what it is that you believe, things that you're willing to die on that hill, right? Believe in that, and then understand what type of person really wants to hear about that. 1 and 2. Number 3, you create things that would be valuable to the person you're trying to talk to. It's when you boil it down that way, it's very simple. It's very difficult because most people don't get past the first one.
Do you think when it comes into the creation part, it can be simple, meaning pick a medium, whether it's YouTube, whether it's podcasting, whether it's a book writing, whether it's a blog, maybe it's a Facebook post, I don't know, where you're like, cool, once a week, I'm creating a ridiculously good, meaty piece of content that's adding value into my community. And then from there, allow, all that's the linchpin that all of the social media posts and everything kind of revolve around. Is that the easy way to get started?
I think it depends on the type of person you are. If you're the kind of person like me, that could be a really dangerous way to go, because I'll never release the one perfect piece of content.
Okay.
Because I have the mindset, like, I don't want to let this into the world until it's really, really finished and it's really, really done and complete. So for my personality type, focusing all in, like I have to get this right or there won't be anything else, could be really dangerous. For the people that are able to actually pick a date, release on it, regardless of the situation. Like as musicians, go back to music, like it's never really finished, it's only released.
Sure. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And in the music business, a lot of things drive deadlines, like record labels and touring schedules and all that will drive like, no, you have to be out this way, especially if you're making money from your music. So making one thing and making that the center point, that's tough. Because I don't know that I would have been able to be successful that way. For me, it was giving myself permission to make mistakes and just start talking along the narrow lines that I've set out for myself. So I don't know if that's much help or not, but I think that's one way that you just mentioned that would short circuit a person.
Sure.
Like
No,
me.
it's good, man. So for you, is it like a daily Facebook post? Was it a daily
Yeah.
Facebook Live or an Instagram Live? Like, did you just pick a platform and ship every single day?
All right, let me think back to when this actually started. I don't think I had a strategy getting forward. That's not very helpful. What I will say is that it took a significant jump when I decided to release one pod. So back to your first idea, like after I had worked through my thinking a little bit, I did decide on the podcast being the central platform as the macro for the week.
Exactly.
And I knew that if I get that podcast produced, then yes, not only did that give me something to draw from, right,
Exactly.
and something to cut up and run on other platforms, but it also gave me a way to develop my thinking. So often my notes from my podcast, one thing that's very helpful is getting the podcast transcribed.
Yep.
And now you can like pull thinking out of that and drip feed that content out in tweets or in Instagram stories. It makes it very snackable.
So we did go back to my original thing, which was pick a platform.
We did.
And ship it, and then let that kind of feed everything else.
Yeah, exactly what you said.
Okay.
I'll be the honest, like I'll try to shoot a hole in your idea and then I'll come back to it in the end. It's like the scientific community, right? Just present an idea. I'll try to tell you why it won't work, and then I'll tell you why it will work. And then if you let it be the guest's idea, he'll come back on the show sometime.
I love it, man. You use a lot of video in your content marketing, and they're good. Like their quality's amazing. The storylines are spectacular. How important do you think video is to building a brand in like the day and age we're in right now?
Yeah, I think you need to use video just because people consume video. Really look at your own behavior. A lot of times people will make things based on something other than the way they actually consume content. We watch content. We watch video content more than any other type of content. So now in this day and age, video content you have to have it if you're going to connect with the majority of people. If you don't have it, what you're doing is creating a tremendous amount of friction for your message to get to your audience. If the second they have to work to get to your message, especially as you're establishing, you're done.
Good. Now you have a full-time video guy, right? So is he the dude doing all of the video? Is he full-time or is he a contractor? I'm curious because I have a vision where I want to create better quality videos. I would love to have a video person just follow me around, ask me things, and I could respond to it. Because as you know, I'm really good at just kind of being in the pocket and responding.
Yeah.
And so how is it that you guys work? I'm just curious for my own personal satisfaction.
Yeah, no. So really a couple layers. So the podcast every week, I shoot that myself. So I have a very simple setup. I have a couple of lights, a Canon M50, which is like a $600 camera. I make sure my settings are right and my audio is good and it looks and comes across. From that point, it does go to an editor who will put it together and then look for things that I say in there that could be snackable. So like just having a video guy, I think this is a new term. We talked about it on my podcast last week with Darren Doan. He coined the term content communicator, right? So you just don't need a video guy. You need someone who understands what your message is and how can contextually make it make sense. And then there are certain times, like when I go to a conference or I have an event, when somebody does come with me, and I think predator is the term that they use now, right? He's a predator, so he just kind of stalks around. Like they used to arrest people like this. But yeah, so, and then like those are I think the unique times where if someone does follow you around at an event or something like that, within like 2 or 3 hours, you can amass content that will last you months if you're good on your feet like you are and you have conversations. So you definitely don't need a full-time video guy to do this. As far as the people on my team that help me with it, it's probably and the amount that I put out is probably in the vicinity of a 15 to 20 hour gig. And then if there are additional events and things like that, obviously you would tack that on. So, awesome. But yeah, it's not like, I'm not like Gary Vaynerchuk where I do incredibly interesting things every day. Sure. And so it's worth having. It'd be really weird if I had somebody follow me around all day, every day.
Drinking coffee by your fireplace.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Drinking scotch, smoking cigars, all the good stuff.
What is the pay range somebody should be able to, expect to pay for that $10, $15 an hour person right now?
10 to 15 or 10 to 20 hour person.
Yeah.
That's going to be all over because it has to do with talent. Sometimes you can get somebody who just has raw talent and they're trying to like do a great job, and you might be able to get that person for a few $100s. Somebody who's really serious about their craft, has experience, things like that. Somebody like that is probably going to cost you in the vicinity of, I think, 10 to 20 hours. You probably should be looking to pay someone about $400 a week to do that.
Awesome.
The nice thing is you're not limited to somebody that's in your local area. That whole economy and the numbers I just gave you could be completely different because the last 3 weeks have just happened.
Sure, dude. Wise words, bro. Wise words for sure.
So now it's like the whole country is your labor pool, and there are a lot of people right now that are sitting at home. It's a great time to build a relationship. So if you're about to start doing that, now is the time to start doing it. And we're at what, April 20th.
Yeah.
This could change by May 20th. I don't know.
Today's 420, just for those that want to know. What are the biggest mistakes you see people make when it comes to building a brand?
Not doing it authentically.
Yeah.
Just building what they think other people want to hear, and that always falls apart. I mean, you can sustain it for a while, but I mean, like, look, no one really thinks you have a private plane, in the personal side, but even on the business side, like if you try to be something you're not, it always comes out. Like you can't hide anywhere. So that's the biggest mistake, is trying to be something that you don't really believe.
I love that. It's a good one. It's a really good one, actually. Just be real. If you could go back in time with the wisdom that you have currently to give your younger self some wisdom, help them collapse time to get results faster, what would you tell them?
Well, first and foremost, it's more of a personal one. It's like your marriage is going to be so much better when you stop trying to change your spouse.
Hey, right? Wise words, dude. Those are good, man.
That would have made a seismic difference in my business, just because the friction that it creates when you're so worried about other people. So, but that's the first thing that came to mind. Business self, wise words that would have totally. Go ahead.
Here's the thing, though. Marriage and business go hand in hand, and so many business people think you can separate them. You can't. They impact the other one. I mean, like if you're draining and hemorrhaging power inside your marriage, and you have that guilt and shame or just tension and anger, it translates into who you're being in the business. And so I've seen time and time again with my clients, if I can button up the marriage, their bank account just exponentially grows on the other things.
Without a doubt.
Doing,
Without a doubt. When you do that, it's like the baggage that you take into your workday.
Yep.
And the confidence, like my confidence in business, because I care about my spouse and I care about, am I doing a good job for them? And I care for them. Like if that's out of whack, my confidence in the business world goes down the tubes, and I won't let myself become married to my business. Right. Like I can tend to go that way, but in the end, I care more about what my wife thinks about me and how I'm, if I'm paying her attention to her. So that's so true. If we just went for a strict business example, very simple, I would tell myself, start now. Like start making content now, because if I had started 2 years before I started, it would be a real different situation because of that. So
awesome. If somebody follows and implements the wisdom that you shared with them today, what can they expect? Like what's possible for them?
They can expect a lot of work is what they can expect. And I think that no one says that. And so no one says that, right? You can expect following and revenue and a company growth. Like, no, you can expect a whole lot of work. And if you're not ready to put in a year's worth of work before you start seeing some real tangible results, then you're going to be very, very disappointed. You should see incremental results. You should see incremental interactions. One thing when you start putting content out, one of the benefits that you get that most people ignore, they start to look at likes and follows and shares and views and all that. One thing that you get that most people overlook is insights. You begin to learn about who you're talking to, what they care about. But first and foremost, expect a lot of work.
Awesome. Thanks for honesty, dude. Thanks for being here on the show. I know you have a podcast. It's called Clarity Compressed. You guys can go check that out, claritycompressed.com. If you want to learn more about Paul, go to pauljddaly.com. It's DALY. I'll put all that in the show notes. Dude, Paul, thank you so much. I know you have another call to go to. So, dude, thank you so much for being here, bro. Appreciate you, homie.
Best part of my day right here.
Well, there you have it, my friend, Paul Daly. Man, I love that guy. I mean, every time we talk, it just feels like we just pick right back up where we left off, and feels like we've just known each other for like an entire lifetime. So I hope this episode served you. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it really helped you figure out how to build a brand. And I know I learned a thing or two. I'm already in the process of finding and hiring that media person he was talking about. Now, I know if you follow his advice, you're going to build a successful brand. And honestly, right now is the time to go all in. Seriously, it kind of goes back to that old saying, you know, the one I'm talking about probably. When is the best time to plant a tree? Well, it's like 20 years ago, right? And the next best time is right now. And building a brand, man, like it's very much like this. And I know like I was big on pushing how important consistency is on this podcast day. Yet it really is the number one thing that makes building a brand work. And the vast majority of people, they don't really have the grit to pull it off. So if you're willing to make that commitment, I'm here to tell you, it will pay off. But the key distinction is you create content because you love doing it. And I feel like we shared some really amazing distinctions about this during this interview. Well, my friend, that's going to do it. I'm going to call it a day on this episode. So thank you so much for being here. And if you haven't joined my free community that's dedicated to helping people like yourself destroy mental blocks, embody their greatest potential, and unlock riches in both their life and business, simply head over to ajamex.com/community. It's 100% free to request to join. And every Tuesday, I host a lunch and learn inside the group at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Love to see you there. So that's going to do it for this episode. Until next time, my friend, I'm out. Peace.
Well, that's all I've got for this episode of the Anthony John Amex podcast, but we have plenty more to help you become unstoppable in life and business. So head on over to ajamex.com for exclusive resources, information, and tools to help you break through to a new level of freedom, purpose, and success. I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Bye for now.